Hi guys, so interesting things from Iceland today, what the civil defense is saying about being ready for the next event that can happen any second. The Icelandic Meteorological Office has announced today, after a surveillance flight that has been conducted by the civil defense, that this eruption is over. And you see the picture here, there is still steam coming out of the eruption, but it doesn't seem that this crater is still spilling lava. But at the same time, the Met Office says the probability of a new eruption or magma intrusion continues to increase. And we know that the magma chamber that's underneath Svartsengi and the Blue Lagoon is as full as it can be. It's over 13 million cubic meters. So I think we're approaching the 14 million cubic meters in that magma chamber. So it's just a matter of probably not very much time until this thing will send magma on its way again. And we have seen early this morning, we have seen some microseismic activity along the magma tunnel. And there was also like an earthquake in Grindavik, a little bit northwest of Grindavik, that had magnitude over 2. So something is rumbling, but we can't tell where or what's going to happen. But the Icelandic MET Office is saying there was no activity in the crater for almost 24 hours. That's why they're saying that thing is over. And by this thing being over, I think it adds additional pressure on that system underneath Svartsengi, because the land has been rising there, the magma chamber has been filling up there while the eruption was still sending a relief, was sending out some lava there. And now that has stopped. So I think we should even see more pressure there, which should increase the chances that we see something very, very soon. Because the rate of magma accumulation in the magma chamber under Svartsengi remains the same, steady up like the last few weeks. Warning time, as we've known for the last few events, very, very short. Because there's one thing, we know that there have been so many intrusions and eruptions now since October last year that the ground is very damaged. The crust there is very damaged. There's magma tunnels, there's been eruptions. So the magma always looks for the way of least resistance. So that's why it's probably coming up there. It's easy for it to break through the crust there. But you know, since we're talking about wearing out the crust, by land rising, land subsiding, land rising, land subsiding, that wears out the crust as well. And that has happened now quite often underneath Svartsengi, where the lagoonies are swimming and having their facials, right? Of course, the Blue Lagoon has not evacuated yet, although they know something's coming very shortly. And we've seen this in other volcanic systems in other countries, that if there is a magma chamber and once it's emptying out, the ground could collapse and form calderas and stuff like this. And we know what's on top of this magma chamber. But also, the scientists here do not rule out that it could come right up. They say it's not super likely because they think it will go where it's been going all the last few eruptions, because there's the existing tunnels, there's the existing system, so magma will look for that easy way there as well. But we cannot rule it out, and since there's more and more pressure in that magma chamber now, there's more and more force behind that magma to dig somewhere else. But we will have to see. They have released an updated version of that graph, although that is still 2 days old. So you're looking here at the red line with the red circle. That means nothing has happened yet, but we're higher than that right now. So we're 2 days further. So definitely, I think we have surpassed the green event. The green event was the January eruption. And then you see the purple event, the purple square. That was the original magma intrusion that we have seen on November 10th. And that was sending a lot of magma on its way. That was very powerful. And the magma chamber had less amount in it than we have now. So it's an interesting scenario. The yellow star, that is basically what we've seen in February. And then we see Another intrusion, that's the light blue square, which was a very unusual event that we saw on March 2nd. And then, of course, we had another eruption start in March 16th, and that's the orange area. And this eruption has been going on for a month and a half, so more than that, almost 2 months now. And now it seems it has died off, but there is no relief in sight. Actually, everyone's preparing for the next evacuation. And let's speak about what the civil defense is saying about that. So Vidya Reinasson, he's the head of the civil defense. He thinks that there is a high probability that they have to evacuate the areas that are in this hazard map of the Icelandic MET Office within the next 24 hours. This means basically Grindavik and the Svartsengi area, the Svartsengi power plant, and the lagoonies. And as always, we know it's coming, but nope. Let's rake in the money till the last second and haul these tourists into that blue lagoon. This is what upsets me, guys. Let me know how you feel. Why can't you be a little bit more proactive when you're sitting right on top of that magma chamber? Because as you've seen probably in my last videos, if you've seen them about that topic, most tourists don't know, and even the Icelandic television went there, interviewed people that were going into the Blue Lagoon and asking them, well, are you aware of what's going on? And they were like, what? There's an eruption going on? No, we don't know. What? There's a magma chamber underneath us? Ah, no, I guess then we're doomed if this comes up right in the pool. Well, yeah, kind of, I would say. So that's why they're not proactive, in my opinion. And I think this could maybe be named as careless. So Vidya Reinasson encourages the people that are staying in Grindavik right now to get all their belongings ready, to have a bug out bag, so to speak, because there's a high probability that there will be an evacuation in the coming days. So he says the civil defense has a plan that assumes it will probably take an hour to evacuate Grindavik and all activities in Svartsengi. So that's the Blue Lagoon as well. And it usually took them between like 45 minutes and an hour to evacuate, which is quite long if the eruption should be closer, let's say, to Grindavik or inside of Grindavik or closer to the lagoonies. Then it's not so great, because this lava, when the eruption starts, it's usually very, very powerful, and the lava flows very, very fast as well, like blocking evacuation roads and stuff like this. So it's not only the event itself that an eruption could be close to where the people are, it's the lava flow as well, and then of course toxic gas pollution as well. And that's why Vidya Reinasson says we have to look at it now. We have received all the warnings that can be there. So basically the system has warned them, I'm coming, right? So there's no excuse to say, oopsie, I didn't know that. And he says the next warning that they will receive from this system is only when the magma run will start. There will be maybe a little bit of seismic activity, but not much if it's using the same system. If it's erupting somewhere else, there will be more warning time. There will be more earthquake swarms because it needs to grind a new tunnel, a new opening to come to the surface. And he points out that last time when the last eruption started, the warning that they received was basically when the eruption started. So there was basically no warning time ahead. And he expects it to be the same this time. And I think he's right. He says, we are ready. Everyone should be ready because the system is ready. And of course, yes, the end of the eruption has been declared this morning. But all eyes of scientists and experts are still on the Reykjanes Peninsula, because we will see this new event there any second. He points out again that magma chamber has reached its tolerance limit, and that's why he says, quote, I would like to encourage the residents of Grindavik who are staying in the town and who are staying there overnight to have everything ready to leave without notice, to leave immediately. The situation is such that there is a high probability of evacuation in the next 24 hours. So people have to be smart with their stuff, those who are in town. So get everything ready that you really need, essential stuff, so that you can grab it and go right away. That's what he says. And he also points out, remember your animals, take your animals, right? Because there's always people that, oh, my cat's not there and this is not there. So, this is not the first time that they have to evacuate. So they should have some kind of routine so that they won't leave their pets behind. Of course, with cats, if you let them outdoors, it's hard because they don't come when you call most of the times. So, but cats have several lives anyways. But your doggies and your bunnies or whatever people have. I mean, we had sheep left behind. So I don't know about that. You can't evacuate a couple hundred sheep in a short time unless you have already trailers and trucks ready to haul them in there or out there. But we will have to see what's happening. Of course, he says we will have more notice if it erupts somewhere else, not in the Sutnuka crater series. But it will probably start in the Sutnuka crater series. That's what he thinks, but he doesn't know. But if it erupts somewhere else, he says, there will be more warning and it will be possible to detect the movements of the magma, where it's flowing, because it'll be followed by earthquakes, because it's grinding. So that's making these earthquakes. And they will see ground deformation on their devices. He says that scientists are telling him that if there is an unexpected change in the sequence of events, meaning the magma is going somewhere else, that while it's building its new pathways, that it will take 4 to 7 hours. So they will have 4 to 7 hours warning time. Benedict Gunnar of Feixon, he's the head of the deformation measurements at the Icelandic MET Office, has said something very interesting about the short magma intrusion, so not an eruption, that happened on March 2nd. That kind of surprised everyone because it was only a little bit of magma going out of the magma chamber, and then the land rise continued right away. And then shortly after, 2 weeks later, we saw the current eruption start. So what he says is that the eruption differs from the eruptions we've seen before in many respects. For example, it lived considerably longer than the previous eruptions that we've seen in the Sutnuka crater series. They have only lasted between 1 and a few days. So that's why he says the lesson that they can learn from this current eruption that just ended will come later. They don't know how to interpret that as of right now. He said there's quite a lot that is new, and people actually have to do new research and look at how this fits into the big picture of what's going on the Reykjanes Peninsula. Because before it was like land is rising, after 3 to 4 weeks, intrusion or eruption, land was subsiding, eruption did stop, land was rising again. So basically all 3 to 4 weeks something did happen, but that has changed now since the eruption has been going on for 54 days or something like that. And he says, he admits the development of this eruption and how long it did last was something they did not foresee and they did not expect. And that's why he says he thinks the system is changing. It's changing its behavior. And he thinks the beginning of these changes was with that weird magma intrusion on March 2nd. So March 2nd, he says, is the date when this volcanic system started to change its behavior. And that's why he says we have to be careful not to assume that it just happens the same every time. We have to be on our toes and see how this changes and develops. And that's why I think just to say, it's most likely that it's going to happen in the Sutnuka crater series again. Be careful, right? He also expects an event at any time. And he also says another thing that was unusual about the eruption that just ended was that the magma accumulation continued under Sortsengi while the eruption was ongoing. And that's considered extremely unusual. Haven't seen this before in Iceland and anywhere in the world before. And he says, now we're at a point, the eruption has ended, but the magma accumulation under Svartsengi has already reached its tolerance limit. So usually the eruption ends and then it has to start recharging again. But we're already, the end of the eruption is before the eruption. It could happen at any second. So he doesn't know whether we will see an intrusion or whether the magma will be able to come up to the surface and create an eruption. And he doesn't know what's happening. He says, well, it's been 2 weeks since we have started to point out that the magma accumulation at Svartsengi has reached the lower limit, like 8 million cubic meters, and the lower limits is the lowest limit at which an eruption has started in the past. So that was 8 million cubic meters. And he says now we're above that upper limit, over 13 million cubic meters. Probably we're at 14 right now. And he says we're basically just waiting and seeing what happens next, but we really expect it to happen soon and at any time. And he also says there's still a lot of uncertainty about how the system under Svartsengi really looks. Where is the magma accumulating? Is it only accumulating in the magma chamber or also in the tunnels? But he says what they see in changes on the surface, in the landwise, it looks like it's not accumulating in the tunnels. It's only accumulating in that magma chamber. That's where the land is rising. And what they're also saying is that the frequency of the earthquakes along the Sutnuka crater series is increasing, which is also another indication something's going on there. So just in the last 24 hours, there have been 87 earthquakes in that area. The day before, it was only 60, and the day before, it was only 30. So that's quite an increase. So Icelandic MET Office says it's hard to predict, or it's impossible to predict or to say how many earthquakes we will have to see when the next event starts. But they're saying there will be even more earthquakes than what we're seeing right now. And they're also confirming there won't be much notice when the next event happens. Even almost no warning, like it happened on March 16th. And on March 16th, there was not much rumbling. There was only mild little seismic activity in the microseismic areas. And they're saying, yes, it's most likely that it will start at the Sutnuka crater series again, but it is not ruled out that an eruption will occur elsewhere, for example, west of Grindavik. But as I just said, they would expect more earthquakes and a little bit more warning time for that. So guys, that was a quick update about what's going on in Iceland. I'm very sure we will hear much more usually. And we know this volcanic system likes to erupt at night so that there will be spectacular videos and pictures of when it comes first out. So there have been nice time-lapse videos about that. So I think it's probably going to start at night again for whatever reason. So far it has always done that. So let's wait and see. Nighttime in Iceland, of course, needs to be dark in Iceland. But since I'm a night owl, I've always been up when it erupted. But usually, no, let me think. It was usually around 1 p.m. my time. But as I said, we will see. I'm on the pulse for you guys. I will notify you. I'll probably need a lot of coffee to keep me awake. And yeah, this morning it's been hard. I'm out of coffee, so I haven't had a coffee yet. So all that I had to go with was water, and that doesn't get me very far. So for the next update, I'll probably be a little bit more active. I have to get my fix. And thanks for watching, guys. If you're new here, please subscribe. I would love to see you on a regular basis. And to the others, thanks so much for your support. And until the next one, I'm out of here. Bye-bye.